Good evening, everybody. We are starting the regular governing board meeting for Jefferson Elementary School District on June 9th at 6:01 p.m. Is Ms. Varai or Superintendent Vidales, can you call members present, please?
Yes. Mr. Koo?
Here.
Ms. Jordan?
Here.
Ms. Manufo Liaina Anoa'i?
Here.
Ms. Maybell, Ms. Manio?
Here.
Okay, and Mrs. Brizuela, I believe, is in the other room. So I'm going to, we don't have any comments on closed session items today. So I will post the webinar, the closed session link here in the chat for you to click on, and we're going to go into closed session. At the end of closed session, we'll come back to this room. Is that understood? Okay. All right. So I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
I'll wait till everyone gets there. Okay.
Heidi.
Hello.
Ms. Manya, whenever you're ready, we can start.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We are going to start the regular governing board meeting for Jefferson Elementary School District at 7 p.m. Ms. Kovarai, could I please have members present?
Ms. Manya, do you want to report out that in closed session, we took no action?
All right. I'm reporting out that we took no action in closed session. Thank you. Okay, I'm calling to order the meeting. And Ms. Kovarai, could I please have members present, please? Thank you.
Clayton Koo,
Here.
Marie Brizuela,
Here.
Andrea Jordan,
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai,
Here.
Maybell Manio.
Here, thank you.
Ms. Manio,
Yes,
there's one change that needs to be put on the agenda. There was a name that was misspelled. I don't know when the proper time to put that out there is. It's for item 17C. A person named Marie Joy. It said Molyneux.
Let's do that when we do the approval of the
The
agenda.
agenda. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank you.
thank you. At this time, Dr. Joyner, do you mind displaying the flag? And Mr. Valenti, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Please rise if you're able to. Hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyner and Mr. Valenti.
Thank you.
At this time, we are going to review the governance team meeting guidelines. This is where the governance team members will review the governance team meeting guidelines. Moving on to item 11, approval of agenda. And Mr. Valenti, you said 17C.
Yes, 17C, one of the names there, it says Marie Joy, and the name listed is Molyneux. That's incorrect. The correct last name is Maestro, Maestro.
Still with the joy?
Yes, still with the joy, Marie Joy and Maestro.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
If no other comments or discussion, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as updated per Mr. Valenti.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Approved. Moving on to number 12, public hearing. A, public hearing on 2021 to 2024 local control accountability plan. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comments on the LCAP. The LCAP is an accountability plan that requires districts to disclose how local control funding formula funds are spent to provide high quality education and programs. We'll start the hearing at 7:04 p.m.
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Okay. Any discussion?
This is just an item to hear comments from members of the public.
Okay.
Yep.
So then
We can close the hearing.
we will end the hearing at 7:05 p.m. Moving on to 12B, public hearing on fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed budget. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comments on the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 proposed district budget. We'll start this hearing at 7:05 p.m.
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Okay. Then we will end the hearing at 7:05 PM. Moving on to 12C, public hearing on district reserves in excess of minimum requirements. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comment on the district reserves in excess of minimum requirements, starting that public hearing at 7:05 PM.
We also do not have public comment on this item.
Okay, then we will end public hearing at 7:06 PM. Thank you, Superintendent. Moving on to item 13, communications. A, board member acknowledgements and commendations. Does anybody want to go first? Ms. Brusuela, would you like to say any comments or commendations or acknowledgements?
Other than attending all the graduations, I thought it was wonderful, and I think I value the students and teachers and counselors and everyone that made these students succeed. And I was really pleased with how it was all handled. It was really nice. So I was proud.
Thank you, Trustee Brusuela. Trustee Koo. Any commendations?
Echoing Trustee Brizuela, attended Fernando's, Ben Franklin, and TRP's graduation today. Just want to congratulate everybody graduating today. Also wanted to wish everybody a happy summer. I realize this is the last meeting before the end of the school year, so just want to wish everybody a happy summer. And then lastly, I just want to say happy birthday to Trustee Jordan. It's her birthday tonight, so just want to wish her a very happy birthday.
Thank you, Trustee Koo. Trustee Laina Anawai.
Yeah, I was able to attend TRPs today on the Westmore field, and I'm grateful to our high school district, you know, in partnership to be able to be on the field and see our students and families in person. But it was a special treat to be able to see some of you today in person. That definitely was a highlight for me to close out our end of year, but also to kick off our summer. And I just want to thank all of the families and all of the teachers, the staff that made this happen, because today was smooth. No rehearsal at all, you know, and to have it go so smoothly, you know, was definitely commendable. I thought it was great. I got a tan. Got some sun out, Daly City sun, but I did get a tan. But I really thought they did an amazing job. So I definitely want to commend the team that had made that happen. And the parents, I got a chance to talk to some of the parents in the parking lot, and they were just filled with such gratitude to be able to witness in person, you know, their children being celebrated. So that's definitely something to be happy about. I too want to thank Superintendent Vidalis too, you know, for your leadership in listening to us and some of the concerns that we've brought your way, and making things happen very smoothly behind the scenes. A lot of times we talk about what we see, but we don't always talk about what happens behind the scenes. So I do want to thank you and our administrative staff for smooth sailing. And a very, very happy birthday to Trustee Jordan. You know, working on your birthday is definitely commitment, you know, late nights. So, and last thing, I did want to get a shout out, because I don't know if we'll have people towards the end when we talk about announcements, but this, you know, this week, of course, San Mateo County Fair is in full effect, but this Saturday in particular is Pacific Islands Day. And, you know, Pacific Islands Day is being celebrated by the county, but it was birthed by one of our very own organizations here in Daly City, Pacific Islanders Together, which is headed and has been founded by Reina Mefua, who is a staff person of our Jefferson Union High School District. And so we have a lot of our my son Reno will be performing, Daly City Boy. But I also want to say, with regards to vaccinations, they will be on site, and they are offering a free admission and a food voucher for anyone that gets vaccinated on site at the San Mateo County Fair. So I do think that, you know, if you're already thinking about it, what a great way to spend time with the family. Get in for free and also get vaccinated if you have been interested in doing that and accessing it. One-stop shop. So Thank you again. Happy summer to everyone. Happy Juneteenth. And I don't know if and happy Father's Day, because we won't be together until after all of that. A lot of good things to celebrate. But I'm very happy that I got to see people in person today. Some of the beautiful faces here.
Thank you so much, Trustee Leina Noa'i, and thank you for that announcement as well. Trustee Jordan, do you have any commendations?
Yes, thank you, trustees, for wishing me a happy birthday. I really appreciate that. I think today I'm trying to be incognito. I didn't sit on the field with you, so I did attend my daughter's graduation today for Ben Franklin. So it's been a day of celebrations. My kindergartner also got promoted to first grade, and so it's been quite a busy day. And so yes, it takes dedication to do this work. So, but I am happy to be here, and it was really great to see all the families at the graduation and having that partnership with the high school district. I honestly, it felt really emotional. I honestly, to see all of those faces, and quite honestly, some of those children I saw as kindergartners or even before that. And so seeing them going into high school, it just is amazing that we have been able to persevere, and we are coming out on the other side of this. And hopefully, you know, when the fall comes, we will be ready for whatever. I think if we can handle the pandemic, we can handle whatever is going to come our way in the future. So I do want to thank the staff, the administration, and Superintendent Vidales for, again, listening to everything you've been saying to make sure that we are doing something special for our community as we go into this next chapter. And happy summer. I'm just super grateful to be here and hoping this is a short meeting since this is my birthday.
Thank you,
Happy birthday.
Jordan. And I can't believe how tall your daughter has gotten. She towers over everyone. And it was definitely good to see everybody and all the families that I haven't seen in so long. It was almost like a reunion for us at the graduation. Definitely kudos to all of our graduates this year. And it's been a tough ride, I'm sure, for a lot of us. And the fact that, you know, we're able to come out and celebrate and, you know, show our appreciation for our students was definitely a good thing, and definitely want to commend even not just our teachers who have helped gotten us through this year, but also the maintenance that at Westmore that allowed us to continue on with, you know, graduations throughout the entire day in a safe and clean manner. And again, also happy birthday to you, Trustee Jordan. Thank you for your dedication here. I know most people like to take off during their birthdays, but thank you for that. We'll move on to Superintendent comments.
Yeah, thank you. So I too want to underscore how wonderful it was to see all of you today in person. It's been a long time, and it's just, you know, overwhelming emotionally to experience that, you know, after being separated for so long. And, you know, during the different ceremonies I was able to see today, I can't get through a graduation without becoming emotional or tearful. Seeing students of all abilities and all backgrounds, and to walk across the stage as best they could and celebrate their accomplishment, it just always brings tears to my eye at some point during the day, many times, multiple times. And today was no exception. So it never gets old, for sure. I especially appreciated the student voice today, to hear from the many student speakers speaking about the pandemic through their own eyes and their experience. Really sort of underscored, you know, my commitment and my desire to do good, to do well by our students and support them in their educational experience, and try to make it as meaningful as we can for them. They persevered and they persisted and they pushed through this. And I'm so appreciative that they have that skill set now with them that will propel them into their futures. outside of that, I'm just so happy that we had a safe event. I'm so grateful for the California Department of Public Health and the guidelines that they put out for how to design and create an event like this. Outdoors, socially, physically distant, and safely. And I remarked several times through the day, like if this was next week, this would look really different. June 15th is around the corner. A lot of these restrictions are being lifted. And it's hard for me not to be resentful that they couldn't have done them a week earlier. But happy that we were able to do something that was meaningful for our families and our students.
Thank you, Superintendent Vidales. Moving on to item 14A, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. That was unanimous. We'll move on to 14B, resolution 21-06-09A to excuse trustee Manufo Leina Anawai from the regular board meeting, May 26, 2021. Pursuant to Education Code 351209C, the board will consider a request of passage of a resolution to excuse Manufo Leina Anawai's absent on May 26, 2021 due to hardship.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 210609A to as presented.
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Miss Jordan,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Miss Manio.
Aye, thank you so much, Ms. Silverai. That was unanimous and okay, moving on to 16F. Agent presentation on certificates of participation. A representative from Kegent will provide a presentation on the opportunity to issue certificates of participation to provide additional funds needed to complete the district's workforce housing project. Thank you. Thank you to the representatives of Kegent for being here this evening with us.
I'm happy to be here. Would you like me to share my screen with the presentation, or Julie, do you have that up on your end?
No, if you could share it, that would be great.
Perfect. One moment. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
It's kind of overload.
Yes, let's,
Can you go over to the left
does that work?
a little bit? Well, you got
Yeah.
it bigger, but okay, we'll manage, I think.
Okay.
Some of it's still cut off.
You know what, let me try and share the PDF. Maybe that would work better. One moment. Is that a better screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you again for having us here tonight. Just as a reminder, Kegent, we serve as financial advisor to the district. So we're here tonight to talk about the potential issuance of certificates of participation. So first, as an overview here on slide 1, COPs, or certificates of participation, are a type of financing that can be used by California school districts to construct or acquire property. The way it works is there is no voter approval required, but of course it does require board approval, which is why we're here tonight. The COPs would be issued to fund your project and would be repaid from any legally available source of funds. It would be used for capital projects of the district and cannot be used for ongoing operations such as teacher salaries. The borrowing costs for COPs are tax exempt, which means they come at a lower cost, but that does also mean the district has to comply with tax exempt requirements of the IRS. In terms of financing term, It does need to be commensurate with the useful life of the project. So of course you would never issue a long-term financing to fund short-term projects. So this would be used for a long-term project if it has a long term. And then lastly, we would be using a nonprofit organization to complete the lease mechanism. In our case, we're using the Public Property Financing Corporation. So you'll see that name in some of the documents presented to you tonight. As I mentioned, it does not require voter approval, but it does require the approval of the County Office of Education and the Auditor Controller's Office. So we did submit a notice to them more than 30 days ago to meet the requirements of the law that showed the estimated repayment schedule and the source of repayment for the potential COP of the district. And lastly, we always want to remind districts that when you're issuing any kind of debt, especially COPs, you always want to make sure that the district has an ability to repay the debt, which we've carefully reviewed with district staff. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the presentation. On slide 2, the purpose of the COP being proposed to the district is to fund the remainder of the workforce housing project. So a COP can be used for that project. And the way it would work is the rents on the project can be used for the repayment of the COP. Of course, as I mentioned, any legally available source of funds is available for repayment. So the general fund could be used as a backup source along with any other funds outside the general fund, such as Fund 20, Fund 40. And by including those other sources as backup, it does lower the overall cost of the issuance of the COP. On slide 3, we just have a snapshot of interest rates. So on the left-hand side, we have a chart going back to 1961 and then shows it all the way to the present day to show just how low tax-exempt borrowing rates are right now. You'll see that it's almost hard to see down here in 2021 just how low rates are. And on the right-hand side, a chart just showing since January of 2020, you can really see the volatility we experienced starting in March of 2020 when COVID-19 impacted the US economy. A lot of volatility, but you can see that interest rates declined. They've since remained somewhat stable and still near historic lows. So it is a very good time to be issuing debt. On slide 4, we have a summary of the potential COP. So the district is targeting proceeds of $10 million using a not to exceed amount of $12 million to allow for costs of issuance and other items that would potentially increase the par amount. The estimated borrowing cost is 2.76%, which, as you know, if you've ever issued or had a mortgage, that's an incredibly low borrowing rate for a 30-year financing. The estimated annual payment would be about $550,000 per year to the district under current interest rates over a 30-year period. And this would be callable, which would allow you to repay it or refinance it at the 10-year mark, so 10 years from now. And we would also include what's called an extraordinary call provision that would allow you to repay the COP from a future potential bond within a 2-year period. So that feature is included in the COP. And on the very bottom, you'll see the estimated sources and uses under current interest rates. So a par of just under 11 million gets you proceeds of 10 million and includes the other various costs and items listed here. Debt service fund, which allows you to have some money to pay interest for the first 2 years. So the district would not be out of pocket on any payments for the first 2 years. The estimated cost of issuance, underwriting, bond insurance, and reserve surety are all parts of issuing a COP, and then a rounding amount. And that brings out our total sources and uses. And on slide 5, we have the actual potential detailed summary of what the repayment schedule would look like. You'll see that the combination of the principal and interest payments together add up to about that $550,000 number that I mentioned. And again, no payments for the first 2 years while the project is constructed. And lastly, in terms of potential timeline, tonight in front of you is the legal documents to actually approve the financing. And if approved, of course, we would continue on the issuance timeline. We are set to receive an updated credit rating from Moody's by tomorrow, June 10th. Early next week, we plan to post a preliminary official statement for investors to review in anticipation of the sale of the COP on June 22nd. And then about 3 weeks later, on July 13th, the financing would close and the district would receive the $10 million in financing proceeds for its project. And that's what we have for you tonight. Are there any questions that we can answer?
Ms. Kessler, would you review with the board all the different sources of funding that we will be utilizing to complete the project?
I was on mute. Sorry. So we're figuring the project will be between $30 and $32 million. And our intent is the first 15 million would come from Measure U funds from our bond. Then the next 10 million would come from these COPs. And then the 5 to 7 million additional funds would come from Fund 40.
And then the payment of the debt, what would we use for that? And then what are the different places that the rents would go to?
The payment for debt would be from the rents, and the rents we have plenty of rents in order to cover those payments. Whether we rented it out for 60 or 70% market, we've done calculations and we are way above our need to use any other funds outside of the rent. The nice part about this is the additional rental income that we make as a result, after we pay off the bonds on a regular basis, is allowed to go into the general fund. It is unrestricted funds. So if we have, let's say, $1.2 million of rental income for the year, and we have, say, $500,000 of a payment, then that leaves us $700,000 delta, which can then go into the general fund. But of course, those funds will also be used for maintenance of the units and perhaps empty units. If we've got empty units at any time, then that will reduce the rents. But mostly the maintenance of the units over time. Any questions?
I had a question. Is it Ms. Hyatt?
Yes.
Thank you. You mentioned that there was an opportunity for an early payoff. Are there any fees or penalties associated with that?
The only fees associated would be if you were to issue it from a new GO bond, which would have to be approved by voters. There's always issuance costs whenever you sell a bond measure. But in terms of redeeming it from some other sources of district monies, there would be no cost or any kind of fees associated.
Questions or comments from other trustees? Okay, well then, thank you so much for your time and for the presentation. This was informational. Is there something coming down the pipeline where we?
Yeah, the next item is a resolution that authorizes the sale of the COPs.
I got it. Okay. Okay, well then we'll move on to the next item. Nothing else. Item G, resolution 21-06-09. Resolution of the Board of Education of the Jefferson Elementary School District authorizing the execution and delivery of documents relating to the sale and delivery of Jefferson Elementary School District certificates of participation 2021 Workforce Housing Project and authorizing and directing certain actions in connections therewith. The administration recommends approval of Resolution 21-06-09, resolution of the Board of Education of JESD authorizing the execution and delivery documents relating to the sale and delivery of JESD certificates of participation, as stated previously, and authorizing and directed certain actions in connection therewith.
Well, as you can tell, that was written probably by a legal counsel. So, Ms. Kessler, do we have somebody from legal counsel who would be able to provide a brief summary of this resolution?
Absolutely. Nick Hoyer is here with us and he can speak to that. Nick, can you, there, I see he's unmuted.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Hewer from the law firm Stradling, Yucca, Cross, and Roth, the district's bond counsel. So, as was mentioned, before you tonight is a resolution which would authorize the execution and delivery of certificates of participation for the purposes of financing the workforce housing project in an amount not to exceed $12 million. And the resolution also authorizes all of the legal documents needed to execute that financing, including the lease purchase agreement, the trust indenture, the site lease, the bond purchase contract, and the preliminary official statement. And you may remember from prior bond issuances, the preliminary official statement will be used to market the COPs to investors and will contain all material information related to the district that would be needed to make an investment decision. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about any of the particular legal documents or the COP structure if you'd like.
Just so we're absolutely clear, this is not equity financing, this is debt financing. This is something we pay back. You don't have a stake in the project. I mean, the COP doesn't have a stake in the project, right?
That is correct. So the certificates of participation are secured by another asset of the district. So the Susan B. Anthony Elementary School site is the leased asset for the financing. So the district is using that as collateral for the COP, and by that, it creates the lease structure of the financing. So the district would lease the school site to the Public Property Financing Corporation of California because the nonprofit corporation is what is required under the law to create this type of leasehold interest. And then the corporation leases that asset back to the district, and that creates the stream of lease payments that will securitize the debt. But the district will remain the fee owner of the property at all times. It's only a leasehold interest that's being granted to this entity, and it's only to facilitate this, obligation to repay and to secure the debt.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from other board members? Okay, if nothing else, then I'll take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to, as recommended by the administration, to approve resolution number 21-06-09 as shared in detail by President Manio.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
This is a resolution, so we do need a roll call vote.
I need a roll call. Sorry, Ms. Kovarai, could I get a roll call vote?
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Miss Jordan,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Miss Manio.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Kilbride. That was unanimous. And congratulations to us. Moving on, and thank you, Ms. Hyatt and Mr. Ware. Sorry. Mr. Lauro for being here with us and sharing the information. Thank you so much.
And I would like to thank them for working with me and continuing to work with me because we're not done yet. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and the board just sees this this part of it, but this has been discussed and rediscussed over the last at least 12 months, if not longer. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes by Ms. Kessler, Mr. Heerer, and Ms. Hyatt, and Mr. Shea, who's also on the line, to try to determine the best way for the district to move forward in financing this project.
Yes, thank you. Great things coming for this district, absolutely. And moving on to item H, fiscal year 2021-2022 budget development presentation. The administration will present the fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed budget and multi-year financial projection for the district. Ms. Kessler, you're up.
Okay, Ms. Kessler, I'm going to share the screen now.
No. Oh, you want, okay, go ahead.
You want to share it or?
I'll give it a try because
Okay.
let me give it a try.
Okay.
All right. We have that same thing. That happened before, huh? I guess I go here. And then I pull it up from here. Okay, have you got it? Can everybody see it? Is it cut off at all? Oh, perfect. That's a first for me. All right, so here we are again, proposing another budget. And this budget is for, in the general fund alone, $79 million for the 21-22 year. I'll be co-presenting with Michael, Mr. Michael Lauro, Director of Fiscal Services. And most of what is on these slides you have seen at the last board meeting when we presented the May revise from the governor. And so what you're going to be seeing here is, again, much of what's in the May revise, but it's going to be split up into what is included in the budget that we're proposing to you, and what is not included in the budget that we're proposing to you. And of course, we'll explain why. And then you will see the results of what was included and what wasn't included in the chart that Mr. Koo refers to. And then we will go over what the legislature has proposed, and that the governor and the legislature are working together and will be back to us next week with a final proposal or budget. So this is, I'm wanting to
click, you want to do full screen?
Well, okay, so full screen is
View.
Where do I go?
Up top on view.
On view, okay.
Yep, and then go to full screen. And you could use your arrows to go left and right?
Okay, what about those? Oh, I just click on that. Huh? Okay,
Nope, don't click that.
okay, well, maybe we just.
If you click view again.
A little bit more.
Okay. Full view. Was I?
Full screen. And then just use your arrows on your keyboard to go, or those arrows too.
I can use either one. Okay. And that just goes to the next page. Okay, great. All right. So this is what is in the governor's budget that is included in the proposed budget. And basically, it's just the COLA. So we have the COLA to the LCFF, which is that mega COLA. And right here, you can see the different parts of that mega COLA. So it is last year's COLA, or actually this current year, that 2021 COLA, plus the 21-22 COLA, plus an additional 1% because of all the pressures that we're having in financial pressures. So that ends up being the 5.07% COLA to the LCFF. The special ed gets, it doesn't get the extra 1%. This is how it works out. It is 4.05. One would think it would be 4.07, but it's not. It's 4.05. And then other select categorical programs will just get this year's COLA or next year's COLA right here, which is at 1.7. The only other thing that we have included in what we're doing is the deferrals, because the governor did not pay down all of the deferrals. So he's keeping $2.6 billion of deferrals, which affects our cash flow. In a later slide, you will see, when presented by Mr. Laro, that we believe this will go away, the deferrals. But for now, the presentation is built with it because it is what the governor proposed. So the rest is what's not included in the proposed budget. And I want to point out that they are all restricted for all restricted purposes. There is a lot of money here that's coming our way, whether it's with the governor's proposal or the legislature's proposal, whatever they come together and meet, there is going to be a lot of money coming our way, but it is outside of the COLAs, restricted. So first off, you saw this before, an ongoing increase to the LCFF concentration grant. The way this increase would be is right now we get an additional 50% of the base LCFF funding for our free and reduced or unduplicated percent that's over 55%. So this 50%, the governor proposes that it is increased to 65%. Now, this is not an easy way to calculate. There's no easy way to calculate how much we would get as a result. You know, we do have concentration grant students, so we would get funds. Many districts do not have concentration grant fund students, but just going by our basic percentage of the $1.1 billion that he wants to put there, the district would get just under $1 million of these ongoing funds if we got that. But again, they would be restricted as S&C grant funds actually to increase direct services to students in the classrooms, but also with counselors. The other amount is $1 billion that he wants to have go to ongoing as well to after-school programs. That $1 billion for next year would increase to $5 billion in 25-26. And for us, doing the same type of calculation, that would be between starting out at about $900,000 next year and going up to about $4.5 million by 25-26. Now, again, this would require us to have after-school programs that would make the instructional day 9 hours long. And it would also require us to have the summer programs that would be also 9 hours of instruction on a daily basis for 30-day period. Then these two funds down here are both one-time funds. If you recall, we have received the AB 86 funding, which had a in-person learning amount that we've received about $1.7 million we're getting there. And then we got the extended learning opportunity grant as well that went through in March. The governor proposes to basically kind of do another year, another couple of years of funding. It would all come next year. So it would be used for a couple year period, whereas this bottom one here, you can see, would pick up when the ELO, the Extended Learning Grant funds ran out. When they expire, should I say, it would pick up and go on for another 2 years. And this adds another year up here. So again, those are one-time funds. These are not included in the budget. Additional information, the Universal TK, I wanted to bring this up because you've heard about it. I want you to understand that this is not actually in the governor's 21-22 budget proposal. It is in the out year proposals. This $900 million that he wants to give out would start in the following year, and it would grow to $2.7 billion. If this happened in the, not this year, not this budget year, but the following year, we would get somewhere around $810,000. And when it grew to its maximum amount, we would get about $2.4 million for the TK, Universal TK. Again, that's not included, and it's not included in our multi-year projection either. Then I want to remind you about these Esr funds, the federal Esr funds. The other federal funds have been spent, but these Esr funds, for the most part, are still open, and we haven't actually budgeted the expenditures for them yet. These will also help us maintain programs for the next couple of years that we are able to put through this year and next year as we move along. And that expanded learning opportunity grant is helping us with, and just other things, other regular education items. So the ESSER 1, which is the one we share with the private school some, we've spent $60,000 of that. We have $554,000 left. That is not included in the budget yet. All the revenues, all these revenues, well, the first two revenues are included in the budget, but the expenditures we have not budgeted the expenditures for them yet. ESSER 2, which we're getting $2.5 million for, we have budgeted $1.2 million in the multi-year projection, not in the proposed budget for 21-22, but in the multi-year projection, it's in there. That leaves us with a $1.3 million that has not been budgeted yet. The reason for this, and Mr. Lara will repeat it again, for putting in the multi-year projection is in order to meet our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. We had to either charge some of our expenditures to this in the out years, or we would have to make reductions. So, and of course, you're not actually approving the multi-year projection. That is just a projection. When we ask you to approve the proposed budget, it is only for the 21-22 year. It does not obligate you or us to anything that's actually in the multi-year projection. ESSER 3, we're expecting $5.5 million, and we have not budgeted any of them. So all of these funds will help us get through the future years. So when you see the chart, you'll see that there is some deficit spending. All of these funds here will help us mitigate, if not completely get rid of that deficit spending. Okay, did I go more? I didn't, okay, I used a different way. Wasn't thinking and I didn't use the arrow. I just used the double finger. So I shocked myself. Okay, so this is what we're including in our assumptions. So now this is district specific. Our ADA, we have 2 years of declining enrollment protection. So for the 21-22 year, we get to use the 1920 P2 numbers. Consequently, we don't lose a lot of money until the following year in 22-23, where we then drop down to, we go from this 5,646 ADA to 5,415 ADA, a drop of 231 students which is in LCFF funds alone, about $2.3 million. And again, we don't know until September comes along and we have all the kids either showing up or not showing up to Jefferson schools. We're not going to know what our enrollment is, and we won't be able to project an accurate ADA until we know that. Our unduplicated percent, as you know, that has gone down. And of course, that's gone down over several years. And one of the reasons is because the increase of minimum wage in California, but also because for quite a few years, our population has been afraid to fill out applications for free and reduced meals. And now that they perhaps may not be afraid anymore, it is now not required, because the entire year of 21-22, all students will get free breakfast, lunches, and supper throughout the entire year. And we will get full reimbursements from the federal and state governments. So the application is not required. And of course, we want to get these free and reduced student population counted, because it will affect our S&C grant funds a lot. Also included is second column, the increase to STRS, the increase to PERS. And right here, I believe I spoke to you about this before, but the state has increased the unemployment insurance rate by 25 times higher than what we're paying now. Of course, we were not allowed to lay anybody off, and but many businesses, of course, in California did. And at this point, with the governor's proposal, we do not get a break on, what we have to pay. So our rate would go from, it was 0.0 here, was 0.05%. It's going to go up to 1.23%. That's just over a $500,000 increase in cost for us. And then the last thing that I have to, nope, it's not the last thing that I have to share with you. But negotiations are underway for both CSEA and AFT. I have one more slide to share with you, and for me, it's cut off. So I have to look at a piece of paper. This is what our LCFF funding will look like for the 2022 year. We will get a total of almost $58 million. And you see these two combined coming to basically $8.8 million of concentration grant funds. Now, these concentration grant funds, if we didn't decrease in our unduplicated percent, this amount would be $855,000 more. But because of our decrease, we lose $855,000. So our increase for all of this over last year is $2.1 million. And I just want to let you know that this budget proposal, it follows the LCAP, and it also follows the expanded learning opportunity grant plan that you approved at the last board meeting. So Mr. Laro,
All right, I'm gonna take it away. I don't know if you guys can still see Julie or see me, but so on this slide here, this is, if you're not familiar with it, it's our multi-year projection. We use this to really forecast in the out years how these different changes with the state's budget affect our budget and our bottom line, for which we have to have a 3% reserve by law. And so, as you can see, the 21-22 projected budget, we're projecting to have a slight surplus of about $56,000. And if you go to the very bottom, you'll see that our reserve percentage would be at 10.16%. Julie had mentioned earlier that we're going to lose our ADA protection in the year 22-23, and that's shown here in the deficit of $2.73 million. Because of declining enrollment and without our ADA protection from 1920 and this year and in 21-22, we're slated to lose a good amount of LCFF revenues, even with a 2.48% COLA. So in 22-23, you'll see at the very bottom, our percentage of net reserve go from 10.16% to 6.63%. And then again, in 23-24, you have another deficit of about $1.8 million. I also want to point out too that in Julie's prior slide, there was the different types of Esr funding that we're receiving, how the Esr 3 is not a part of this multi-year projection, including the $554,000 of Esr 1 and the $1.3 million of Esr 2. These are going to help us preserve our fund balance in the out years. But just to reiterate it, these are one-time funds that we're receiving with specific deadlines. So these funds aren't going to help us with us losing funding due to enrollment loss or unduplicated student population going down or ADA going down. These are just going to help us preserve our fund balance and or increase programs for expanded learning to prevent the learning loss that happened in this last fiscal year or school year. And then again in 24-25, we have a smaller deficit, although we still are deficit spending, and we just barely meet the minimum requirement of reserves at 3.37%. Luckily, the COLA in these out years, increase our LCFF revenues over time. But as you know, from the 1920 to 2021 budget, we're dependent on the state's budget and how they're forecasting their tax collections. So depending on how the next couple of years go, this COLA can go up and it can go down. So we're really dependent on that. And the state's fiscal health can really mess with our out year projection. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. Go next slide, please. And so here's just another visual presentation of where we're at in 2021 and how the deficit spending that we're having is decreasing our overall fund balance in the out years. As you can see, it's a structural deficit due to us losing enrollment and ADA. So you go to the next slide. And so here are some big ticket differences of what the legislature has and what the governor has on his budget. And as you all know, by the 15th of June, the governor has to pass his budget by law. But here are some things that the LAO, the Legislative Analyst Office is proposing. One of the big things that we're expecting to do, or we're expecting the state to pass, is to pay off and close the deferrals out. This would save school districts all over California that need to borrow cash via trans or interfund transfers within their own district. It would save school districts a lot of money. Other things that would potentially help us out would be to lower the 1.23% SUI state employment insurance from 1.23 to 0.5. So instead of having a multiple of 25 times difference, it'll be a 10 times increase, which would help us out in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Other things that the legislature is proposing is using $3 billion over the next 4-year period to reduce pension costs. As you all know, CalSTRS and CalPERS go up every year by 1%. And so by the state helping out to reduce these pension costs on our budgets, it helps us preserve and maintain our fund balance in the out years. Obviously, if these percentages go up, if the STRS and PERS rate go up by 2 or 3%, that can cost us almost $1 million, if not more. Another big thing that Julie had talked about, but the legislature is pushing is instead of the concentration grant going from 50% to 65%, it'll go to the supplemental grant from 20 to 23.3%, using $1.1 billion. This won't be as big of an impact on our LCFF funding, but regardless would still increase our LCFF revenues, which is a good thing. The legislature also rejected one-time funding for both the in-person instruction health and safety grant and the $2.6 billion for the targeted intervention grant. So this would be a continuing funding model for the in-person instruction grant that we currently have, 1.7 million, and almost a continuation of the ELO grant. Go to the next slide. So the next steps, right? Everything's culminating to this point. Our budget has to be adopted no later than June 30th. This is our public hearing for the board meeting and for the LCAP. The next meeting on the 23rd would be when we're voting with the board, is voting to approve our LCAP and our budget. After that, we submit everything to San Mateo County, for which they'll review, and they have to approve our district's budget by August 15th. The county is going to go through and ensure that we're predicting the correct amounts for SUI and PERS and STIRS, and all of our LCFF revenues are on target for what the state's projecting. And yeah, once it's approved, the state budget's adopted, the district we can make adjustments to our budget within 45 days. And so from there.
Okay, so
questions.
from there's questions. One thing I want to clarify is when the county reviews our proposed the budget that you pass, they don't just review it for its technical correctness. They review it to make sure we can meet future obligations. And if they're feeling that we're pushing it too much, then they come and sit with us and discuss with us what our plans are. So with that, does anybody have any questions for either of us?
I guess I got started. I just say thank you to Ms. Kessler and Mr. Laro for the presentation. So I know that at the last meeting, I had some questions regard to the governor's May revise and some of the budget adjustments that may come up in this presentation. So I know that on slide 3, you mentioned a list of a wide variety of governor's proposed budget items, but the budget hasn't been passed yet. And you have a list of like $990,000 for LCFF grants, $990,000 for after school and all this kind of stuff. I guess in terms of, say for example, on a good, most optimistic end, all those things get passed, including those one-time funds. What would our multi-year projections table, I guess, look like? Because I realize that's a lot of maybes or ifs, but I was just wondering, like, how does that look in terms of some of the out year, in terms of potential deficits as well?
Okay, well, the items that require us to provide additional services, we would make sure that our budget, for instance, like a after-school program and summer program, we would have to be careful not to overspend, because if we overspend, we end up spending some of our general fund unrestricted funds. But it would also allow us to save funds, because funds that we are spending now towards after school programs and summer school, we wouldn't have to spend later because we would have these funds. So we would be able to, our multi-year projections should look better, but it's because we're offering more services and covering some services that we have. The same thing goes with the additional concentration grant funds, since it is for direct services. On the other hand, if, for instance, we have declining enrollment, further declining enrollment, or just the declining enrollment that we're experiencing, and because this declining enrollment causes us to lose funds. And because we would be losing these funds, we say, oh my gosh, we can't afford to have 10 counselors. We have to go down to 6. We can't afford to have the extra nurse or the librarians. We need to go down. This would allow us to not go down. It would allow us to maintain those. So it would, in essence, would be saving the funds from not having been spent from funds that are no longer there because we don't have the enrollment. We would be able to pay it with this. The same thing goes with the one-time funds. It's kind of like with the federal funding, all the stimulus funds. All these monies came to us, were thrown at us, and we had to figure out what things did we need in order to get through this pandemic, and what things could we support that maybe we're already doing that would be allowable expenses. And we would have to go through these with a fine-tuned tooth comb to determine that separation. What can we continue on? What should we continue on with? What programs are the best? And use the funds accordingly. Because as we said, we still have those Esr funds. And they're in a sense for the same kind of thing. So, but we have basically a 3-year period through the end of through August of 2024 to be able to, let me see, 22, 23, okay, a couple of years to be able to use these funds. So it's going through everything and determining what we can charge to it and what we need to increase in services, or what services we can save with them. And so
I'm gonna add something to
help our end fund balance, without a doubt. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
It's just hard to say exactly how much it will help it.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to what Julie's saying, if the governor, the legislature, and the state agrees on increasing the concentration grant from 50% to 65%, unlike things that are one time, this would be ongoing. So as long as our unduplicated pupil percentage is above 55%, which it is, we'll continue to get this higher rate of concentration funds. So if our unduplicated pupil percentage were to go below 55%, then we would lose out on the concentration, this extra additional concentration grant funding. So this would be obviously beneficial to us at Jefferson Elementary School District, because it'll be ongoing funding versus something that's one time and has a spending expiration date, right? So this would be beneficial. And one thing I also want to point out is that the legislature wants to go from 20 to 23.3% of the supplemental grant, which is ongoing, which would still help the district on a multi-year ongoing basis. So we're just gonna have to see what the governor and the legislature agree on.
And I would like to add one more thing. I know that we, myself and Mr. Laro, are the numbers people, the finance people, but it's hard for us to see it sometimes, but it's not all about the number, the money. It's what services we can provide our students. And clearly this last year has been a difficult year. And this would allow, I mean, we to be able to have after school programs. I mean, maybe not everybody would go into it, but there could be families that could really use the students could really use this help. So, and to get more into the classroom. So this would, and like the TK, and by the way, the legislature is agrees with the whole transitional universal TK. They just want to add an extra year for implementation, to stretch it out an extra year. But all of this should really help the students, and also help students that might be borderline struggling in for special ed purposes. It might be able to help them to move forward without more costly special ed services, because we can provide them services here. Did that help?
Yes, that did. Thank you.
So, Mr. Koo, I think it really does depend on how clearly the legislature and the governor say that has to be new and increased services. Because if we get money for new and increased services, we also have new and increased expenses. So that doesn't really help the bottom line at all. If it's a vague and we can sometimes substitute some current expenditures into these categories, then it can help. And then also there's the opportunity, right, that Ms. Kessler pointed to, that we want to increase services because we know that that's going to support our mission, to support our students. So there's going to be increased services with the increased funds. So it may not impact our bottom line a whole lot, but certainly where it can, we will take advantage of those opportunities.
Cool. Thank you for the clarification. I have one more question. I know this has come up in the past. I feel like this one might be more of a discussion that could be happening in the future. I know that in the past, when we've had out years where budget deficits are quite large, we've had to like talk about considering taking some kind of action earlier. But I'm guessing like right now, with so many things unknown regarding the budget that's gonna get passed, as well as state and federal stuff, that's probably something that we could probably hold up, I'm guessing, for now.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that with all this funding, I feel that we have a very good chance of being able to hold off the reductions because of not being able to meet our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. No, the reason why I say no is we should never forget that we need to be the right size. We need to adjust accordingly to our enrollment. And so that's something, and we never want to, and it's possible that we continue to get one-time funds for a long time, and we're able to push things off. And we could do that forever. But we have to also recognize that if we are actually deficit spending, then it is something that we need to address and look at seriously, and not just hope that it goes away. But yes, in a sense, we should be able to, with a lot of combing through everything, figure out ways to retain our end balance. Again, we don't know what's going to happen to our enrollment come the fall.
Okay, thanks. That makes sense to me. And then I just have one last question regarding next steps. California passes the budget on the 15th. We pass on 30th, and I know that depending on what gets passed, there might be a bunch of changes in our budget. Are you able to share, I guess, like an update after the budget gets passed on what actually is going to be implemented and sort of how that affects the budget that we will end up approving?
Well, what we'll do is we'll share with you what the changes to what budget was passed, and what changes need to be made to our budget as a result of that. Now, to start with, we will not have to make cuts to our budget because of that, because we pretty much didn't include any of this, right? So it's really a matter of increasing expenditures and taking the time to determine what current expenditures we have that we can charge to that. And that's something that's going to take time. We will definitely update all the numbers for you on the at first interim. And if there's some golden nugget here that passes, but the thing is that we already kind of know what the legislature wants, and it's pretty close, except for throwing these couple things away. I don't imagine that there's going to be a big pot of unrestricted funds that goes our way. However, if they reduce, for instance, the unemployment insurance cost, we will save about $300,000 from that. So, and right now we have it in our budget that we have to pay this higher rate next year. This would be a good $300,000 savings. In addition to that, if they are able to get through the pension costs, the $3 billion they want to put towards pensions, well, that's going to affect us too. It will save us money from that. And that could be some significant money. It could be $500,000 or more per year for the next 4 years. So there's significant funds there. And then let's not forget the workforce housing project. We'll be able to bring some funds in there after we've paid off our expenditures. So that, of course, we're not including that in this at this time. Did that help?
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot that could be coming in that might change some of the money coming in. So I guess I'll wait to see what we get from Sacramento. So yeah, thank you for the thank you for the questions. Appreciate helping me answer those questions.
No problem. Thank you for the questions. We spent a lot of time working on this, so anytime somebody wants to ask a question, I'm more than happy to go about answering it in any fashion. So appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments from other board members? No? Okay. Thank you again, Ms. Kessler and Mr. Lauro. I know that the budget development, like you said, takes a lot of time and work and hours put in. So we appreciate that. And thank you, Trustee Koo, for your insightful questions. I know that sometimes things, especially when it comes to the budget, it feels a little overwhelming for some of us that don't all the way understand. So I appreciate your clarifying questions and for both of your time today. I believe this was informational. So if no further comments or questions, we'll move on. Thank you again, Mr. Lauro and Ms. Kessler.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 17A, Certificate Retirement 2020-2021. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from Janet Harrison, third grade teacher, FDR, effective June 12, 2021. Ms. Harrison has been employed by the district since September 1, 1988. Administration also requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending Ms. Harrison for her years of service with the district. Mr. Valenti.
Yes, I don't know if any of you have met Ms. Harrison. She's a wonderful, powerful person that has been up at FDR for over 30 years. And this year, you know, like with many people, it's been a tough year and it was the right time to move forward. And I just want to thank her so much for all her hard work, all her advocacy, working with AFT as her site rep, and just as a friend. I've known her. I mean, she started working here when I was just out of high school, but she's been here ever since I came here. So I just want to, again, concur the highest honor to her for retirement and appreciate her years of service.
Thank you for that. No other comments, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion as recommended by the administration to approve the retirement request from Janet Harrison, third grade teacher of FDR, effective June 12th, 2021. And she has been employed by the district since September 1st, 1998.
88.
Yeah, 88.
I second that motion.
A second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Bruzuela, you were on mute. Trustee Bruzuela, are you there?
Have to hit, am I on? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank goodness. I was trying to say, hey, I was gonna make a comment too, if you want, don't mind me making it before we go on this. I also want to also say the same thing for Janet. I worked with her also, and I think she's fantastic. And I know all of the good points that she has done for our district, and I wish her well.
Thank you, Ms. Bruzuela. And your vote?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Great. That was
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is passed. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Moving on to 17C, variable term waivers 2021-2022. The administration recommends approval of the following subsequent variable term waivers for the 2021-2022 school year for the following special education teachers while they pass the necessary exams, CBEST, CLAD, and program coursework for their preliminary education specialist credentials. Audrey Bayogos, JFK, Marie Joy Maestro, TRP, Renelle Ohano, Ben Franklin, and April L. Hollivers. Subsequent variable term waiver to complete coursework for speech, language, pathology, and internship.
Yeah, so quite a few of our teachers, as they work through their professional preparation classes, require waivers in order to pass certain tests or finishing coursework. The whole COVID pandemic has impacted also access to testing. So the three teachers that are currently working towards their special ed credential, Ms. Gallegos, Ms. Maestro, and Ms. Ohano, will require that to continue working with us. Ms. Hollivers, who was prior teacher over at TRP, is working as a speech pathologist and is continuing with her credential process. So we would recommend that the board approve these waiver requests.
Any questions or comments from board members? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve as recommended by the administration, the approval of the following subsequent variable term waivers for 2021 to 2022 school year, as mentioned and named.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 That was unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Valenti.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, moving on to item 19, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. Superintendent Vidales, do we have any speaker cards?
We do not have speaker cards today.
Okay. Then we shall move on to item 20, governance team member comments, reports, and board meeting reflection. Anyone want to volunteer? Ms. Bruzuela, you are unmute. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm just, I just want to comment that I'm very proud of all of the graduations and proud of all the work of the teachers and counselors. And I think we're in a good place, and I know we're just going to get better and better as we go along. And thank you to everyone. Thanks to the board members for all the input that you have done. And thank you, Mr. Vidales, for all that you do for us as well. So with that, good times coming.
Thank you. Trustee Koo?
Sure. End of the school year. Just want to wish everybody all the best for the summer ahead, and thanks to everybody in our district for making this school year a good one, especially for all of our students and everybody in our community. I know it's been a tough 2020 and 2021, but looking forward to a brighter 2021 and 2022. as we move forward. So just want to wish everybody all the best. Happy birthday again to Trustee Jordan, and wishing my dad a happy Father's Day as well. So thanks, Trustee Leanganaway, for reminding me of that as well.
And Trustee Leanganaway.
Everything that's been said. And I want to just say that happy birthday to Trustee Jordan. We are approaching 8:30 p.m. And in your honor, it looks like we might be finishing. So in your honor. But yeah, a happy early Father's Day to all of the fathers and all of the father figures who really make a difference in everyone's lives. And we're doing our work. I believe that we're doing our work. Today was a testament, in all of the graduation ceremonies was a testament that we have in some way, shape, or form survived this pandemic and allowed for our students and their families to feel some sense of closure in seeing their children walk the stage. So I'm grateful for that. But I wish you all well, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Trustee Leanganaway. Trustee Jordan.
Thank you for this very concise and efficient meeting and everyone that presented today. I also want to echo the sentiments of all my other board members in terms of, happy summer. I know Juneteenth is coming up. I will be celebrating that. Happy Father's Day. And honestly, congratulations again back to our graduates, and honestly to all of the parents as well. We made it. The school year is 2 days away from being over. And so, let's get through this summer and come back to a really good school year for 2021-2022.
Steve Jordan, again, happy birthday to you. I hope you're able to celebrate with your family, get some good quality time in, and happy summer to all of our families and our community. We will see you next school year, and happy Father's Day to all. And thank you so much for all of the presenters and our guests today. We appreciate your time. I would like to adjourn this meeting at 8:27 p.m. with a moment of silence for Alberto Lenz, father of Tatiana Lenz, instructional assistant at Franklin D. Roosevelt. Thank you again, everybody. I hope you all have a good evening.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Good
you.
night. Good
Happy
night.
birthday,
Bye.
Jordan.
Happy birthday.
Bye. Bye, Heidi.
Bye.
Bye.